Welcome to Off the Deep End. This podcast endeavors to bring you compelling, inspiring content to encourage you to pursue your dreams, reach for your potential, and stay aligned with your purpose and vision. I'm Rachel Tamilio, and I'm here to remind you that you have more power, promise, and potential than you can imagine. Today I have a returning guest. Nicholas Tucker joins me once again. This time he updates me on his progress with agricultural missions that he talked about in our first meeting. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Well, welcome back, Nick. It's great to have you again.
Thanks again. It's good to be here as always.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the last time we talked, it was entitled What the Hemp? And it was all about your hemp projects, and you were educating us on a lot of different things, like what types of uses hemp has, why it's been another thing that the enemies of humanity have suppressed from us, that it was once a really big part of society and culture, and all of that went away at a certain point. And last time you and I talked personally, you were super excited about the progress that these hemp projects have made, not just nationally, but globally. And before you update us on those things, I wanted to ask, first of all, if you could just spend a little bit more time, once again, on making a distinction between the hemp that you're referring to and the CBD or the cannabis market that is so like just in our face right now. What is the difference? Chemically, what is the difference in terms of how it helps or harms us? And whatever else you'd like to tell us about that would be great.
Yeah, sounds good. Real quick, hemp is the plant that has been demonized and propagandized against for the last 100 years. There's great data out there on why it's all happened, but hemp is it's a plant that's been around forever and ever and ever, and it was developed specifically for humanity and anything that our Creator deemed necessary to thrive in this environment. And we know that due to not only the endocannabinoid system being present in human bodies, but specific animals having an endocannabinoid system. And scientists will ignore this all day and night, but it's going to come back in international courts, and it already has been successful in proving that this plant was intentionally targeted for deletion, destruction, just a mess of things to confuse us about it. And enter the cannabis. And I'm going to talk legal cannabis real quick. The legal mainstream cannabis we see today grown in dispensaries is grown by private equity funded greenhouses. All of their strains are typically hybridized in GMO. They're grown under artificial light, LED. If you've done any type of research into what LED symptoms are on the human in general, just being under LED light for too long, number one thing is anxiety and a imbalance. So that's why you're seeing a lot of people that have gone to the recreational cannabis side are reporting symptoms like that. Not only that, but I said these are heavily edited seeds. There's no more land race or heirloom to be found. It's very similar to our agriculture in terms of consumables. So don't let them muddy the water on it. It's very similar. They've just taken the strategy to a different industry. And that's what they've done with cannabis. They've completely lied and ignored hemp. There's multiple kinds of hemp. There's feral hemp. There's sun hemp. There's industrial hemp. There's hemp that's being bred for plastic manufacturing specifically. There's hemp being bred. And when I say that, naturally hybridized, naturally strained, just like we've seen done responsibly with with the fruits, some of the fruits we enjoy today, and fruits how they've over natural selection over time, right, have developed naturally. These are all forms of hemp, but there's also hemp strains that are specifically cultivated to produce biofuels. Another extent of that is hemp that is really, really beefed up to clean topsoils, and those in turn are the same strains of hemp that will be utilized to produce biofuels, to include hemp ethanol. That, if you want to talk about a plant and self sustainability and sovereignty, is one of the biggest topics out there for everybody, no matter what side of the fence somebody's on. I don't think anyone's turning away an opportunity to be more self-sufficient right now, but this is not a stretch. It's a plant that can get a farmstead or a homestead completely off the grid in a season. That's not an exaggeration. Hemp provides food, fuel, clothing, medicine, and it cleans soils. On top of that, the reason why it's been so heavily demonized is the hemp plant itself has a natural resonant frequency that matches the Earth's and magnifies, almost increases that resonant frequency wherever it goes. And that includes its byproducts. So when you're looking at, why is everything, including our carpet, made of a petroleum-based chemical? It's all about imbalance, and it's all targeting our DNA specifically. But everything, if you look back in the 1800s, all the way down to the paint finish was made from hemp seeds. But all of your clothing, your linens, even in the early 1900s, both world wars, our troops, when they wanted them to win, they had us in dungarees. They had us in hemp dungarees. They knew the benefits of that, and they even, and the USDA actually even ran a campaign prior to World War II on hemp for victory. So, it's all we have to do with the hemp plant is ignore the propaganda, and this is easier said than done. The propaganda is tough, and the programming is even tougher within the agriculture community, because they've been victims of an onslaught of programming from the USDA, industry, secret societies, cartels. I mean, you name it. It goes on and on and on. When I say cartels, I'm talking about people that have been aggressively after control of natural resources. That's what they are. They're a criminal enterprise. But the programming within the industry itself is the biggest issue right now. And I can happily report that there are so many people out there doing it, applying it, even this season, that ripple, the drop in the pond, whatever you want to call it, it's showing others, right? It's breaking that programming illusion. It's breaking that illusion of those farmers that thumb through those agriculture magazines these days. It's Bayer, Monsanto. It's each one's a pharma ad for a seed or a chemical or a piece of equipment. Even the equipment manufacturers are in on this. The equipment's gotten bigger and more cumbersome and more technical, and that from a financier standpoint is big business, because tractors aren't 10, 15, $20,000 anymore. They're 100, 200, $300,000 anymore, and that's without implements, and that's to harvest corn and the traditional things. But this is all being programmed to the farmer that this is what you need, and their marketing is beautifully done, just like our mainstream media, Hollywood, and entertainment, right? Their marketing is brilliant, and it's attractive. So how can a little old plant like hemp come in and level the playing field again? And with so many people doing it, not just here, but around the world, countries that have been massively popular this year. When you look at and this is, a lot of this stuff is grassroots, and it's the way it's got to be. I've been approached many times in the last year to, commercialize an effort to do this. And quite honestly, there's real no way to commercialize this and do it correctly. It's got to be a co-op formed, and these are the co-ops that I want to talk about that are doing really amazing things right now. And that while they're not terribly formalized yet, one person growing hemp, just to give you an example, South Bend, Kansas, South Bend Industrial Hemp, they started in 2018, and 2018 was a big year for hemp because people were excited about it, but the USDA was waiting for those people to cultivate, go after hemp their first year. And then they used all of those over regulatory tools that they love to throw out. And many of them were totally had a bad taste in their mouth because the USDA came out and targeted them. They tested their, hemp, and whether it tested too high on THC or whatever. A lot of these first initial crops were destroyed in 2018 to hinder the progress and to continue to muddy the waters. And I had family. I had a cousin. They moved their entire operation from western Kansas to southeastern Colorado. They put everything they had into it. They sold their home. They took out second mortgages. They put everything they had into it. They had an amazing crop. They had to burn it. They had to destroy it. And this is what I'm talking about. And here's the loophole that I'm. Listen for the loophole that it's done great in terms of applying now. Um, they're testing these plants because they're, the story is we're worried about the THC content, which in hemp is under 1%. It's a negligible, that is, you wouldn't feel that, even a child wouldn't feel that. And again, going back to how we establish and how we, how did this endocannabinoid end up in us? Well, it's because the animals were eating hemp first, and we were consuming the animal byproducts, their milk, their eggs, and then of course their meat. But all of that was transferred through. The USDA knows this. You just have to call them out on it. That's why your proteins and your commercial processors and all your protein operations commercially right now, they're eating a GMO diet. They're eating glyphosate, Roundup Ready, that 90% of the animals in the US. Now, why would you do that? Is it because that gets transferred from the animal to the human? Yeah, that's exactly what. And it's exactly why hemp was run off, because it did the same thing, but it did the same thing for positive reasons, naturally, as it was intended. Um, we could spend 3 hours on why they banned it. But I want to talk about DNA specifically and how the GMOs, when you're genetically modifying something like a corn crop, corn's not, unless you're looking at old Indian heirloom corn, corn's not one of the best things out there for us anyways. It's not. And if you stack up corn flour, wheat flour, any flour that we have on the shelves today, and you compared it to something like a hemp seed flour, it doesn't even come close. It's the perfect protein that you're getting from a hemp seed. Omegas 3, 6, and 9 are all present. And guess what? It will repair damaged DNA.
Yeah, it's perfect you
As
said that, because that's one of the things I wanted to have you talk about more specifically was the health benefits of hemp, both consuming it directly and indirectly through livestock that have been, slaughtered and we consume. If you can
yep.
go into a little more detail about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so 1973 or so, an herbicide came out, and it was tested in Vietnam of all places. You'll see a trend with chemicals being tested in, um, battlefields. That's been a normal thing and within the military, right? We won't spend a ton of time on there, but this was a chemical that they found after a spill in one of their yards, and this bacteria started to grow. And they took this bacteria into a lab, and they spliced and diced. And at the end of the day, what they did was they took corn from its natural state, and they completely modified it with E. coli. And not all E. coli is detrimental to humans. It's not. But this particular strand of E. coli, um, is specifically targeted to cause real issues and not only the animal host, but the human host. And I'm talking about parasites again. Not only does it add fuel to that parasite activity, it enables the consumer of these goods to be a manufacturer of parasites. And they know that. And that's why it's been heavily used. On top of that, glyphosate is an aggressive mineral stripper. It completely strips your body of the minerals that you need. That's what it's designed to do. And more people are finding out that all disease, degenerative or not, whatever they want to, call it to get your attention, is a result of lack of minerals, mineral deficiency on some level. And I'm a root cause person. I always have been. This is the root cause. And there's a metaphor there. Our roots have been grown in the soil. The roots of these plants have been grown in the soil, and there's no nutrients available in that, very little, right? And the corn that's modified to accept this glyphosate thrives in those conditions. A ton of water and a ton of chemical. There's nothing sustainable about the process either. Yet it's grown everywhere, it's widely accepted, and it's a poison. It's labeled a poison. And there's enough study out there that, I don't know if it's been labeled a bioweapon yet, but it needs to be for certain reasons. And I believe it has, that people aren't going to aggressively talk about that, but it's a bioweapon. It is. It's to completely drop your immune system. It's a Trojan horse for disease, illness. And I'm not just talking bodily, I'm talking mentally, physically, spiritually, all of them. That attacks everything. A lot of people know, or may not know, a parasite infection is the manifestation of a disembodied spirit or a demon, or you know what I mean. These things go hand in hand. So when you think about where the parasites come from, they're very much a creation of dark forces, and we've created a system. Not we, but the powers that be have created a system to nourish those environments. And it's connected to that brief conversation I had with you a little while ago about, they didn't just poison the well. They took the processing facilities and they placed those on sacred energy points. And the way they process the animal, I'm not going to get the details, but there's nothing humane about it. And they're taking an already sick animal, they're adrenalizing it right before death, and then they're processing thousands and thousands and thousands of animals a day on one energy site. And this meat, this protein is being shipped out to every corner of our country and a lot of overseas, to commercial kitchens, schools, hospitals, nursing homes, and your grocer.
Yeah.
There's it's so I always take what they've done and see why they've done it. And it's rarely been about, hey, let's find an all new solution to counter this. No, the answer's been there. We just have to look to the past before they've done all this work to cover it up. And we have to keep in mind that they've never created anything that has been beneficial for us. They've taken ideas from us, they've taken our creative energy and used it to subvert, humanity's progress here. And that's exactly what happened with hemp. Hemp was widely consumed. Think about this. Think of what you know now about that glyphosate being in meats, eggs. Milk is terrible. If you're GMO milk, if you're drinking it regularly, if your children are drinking it regularly, please stop. It's the worst thing you can put in your body. It really is. It's full of sugar. Then you add the glyphosate, and then everything else going on there. It's a cocktail for issues. Maybe not immediately, but down the road it'll be a real issue. That being said, the solution is easy. because it's already been done, and we have more resources today. We have an abundance of resources today, but the illusion is always scarcity. That's not the case. That is an illusion. Scarcity has always been the illusion. And a plant like hemp is a perfect example of that because, not only we're talking health benefits for everything it touches, the phytoremediation of the soils while it's growing. Hemp filters water that ends up getting circulated back into our aquifers, which is important. It's important we get filtered good water. And like I said, hemp passes that resonant frequency onto the water. Think of what that does in mass numbers instead of brine water from a processing plant that's being put in there now, or the glyphosate runoff. This stuff stays in the soil for 10, 20 years. The PFAS in the soils in general, the forever chemicals, the heavy metals, hemp can phytoremediate all of that. And I think there's some applications that'll take more than one season, but guess what? The hemp that you use to phytoremediate that's the most potent biofuel. The more toxic the soil, the more potent the biofuel. So there's a simple solution for anything we have ever faced on this planet, no matter our adversary. It's all about just applying them and reading between the lines, calmly evaluating earnestly the information that we have now. My Twitter X account got suspended recently, but I mean the information I was able to put together on a thread that got to a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people saw it. But the relation between the paper trail of the censorship is what I was putting together, and it all went back to 1936 when this was a congressional report that came out. It's called Modern Day Miracle Mint, and it came out in 1936. It was a very well done evaluation of minerals in our topsoil. There was a major concern in 1936 about the depletion of minerals in our topsoil. So almost 100 years ago, someone was blowing the whistle on this. And Congress shut it down, shut the investigation down right in 1936, and they deemed it too costly. That's also right around the time hemp was formally banned, because hemp was one of the tools that they proved to show this, hey, Native Americans are already doing this, indigenous, I mean, whatever. Everybody has used this. It's being used across the planet now. And, oh, it's too expensive. We can't do it. Anyways, that report's out there, and it's just been a constant denial since then, and a complete corporate domination and control of the cultivator. And that's what they did. They made the cultivator dependent on the subsidy. And 100 years later, here we are, right? But we have a lot more to fight for. We have more data than ever. I'm not saying we should have turned this around 100 years ago. I wish we would have, but if anything, the advantage now is we see exactly how it happened, and it's just about reversing it, reverse engineering everything that's been done. And I always like to call it and start turning screws. I mean, let's get it done. And I've been blown away at how many have been involved in 2023. Proud of Kansas. I'm gonna give them an applause. Kansas is heavily dominated. One of those packing houses I was talking about. I'll just say it. Tyson Foods. Look at their logo. Look at their logo. I don't know if you've seen their new logo. It's a T or a cross, and it's got an arrow right through it. So I look at that stuff. It's all pretty obvious if you know what you're looking for. And then you start to look at their practices with human trafficking and child labor and migrant workforce, which is part of that. When you get into migrant workforce, you create a chaotic immigration situation, and that's on purpose, and that also feeds our human trafficking issue, primarily sex trafficking. So it's all related. It really is. And we just have to, with level heads, rectify, build around with the tools that we know we have. And yeah, Kansas being one of them. I got off on a tangent there, but amidst all the corporate control that Tyson has had over that state, and they're all in cahoots in DC or were because the lobbyists all work together from the seed supplier to the chemical provider, the glyphosate, to the people that utilize the beef, the contracts that utilize beef in mass, prisons, schools, commercial restaurants, all that stuff. It's all connected. And then your labor, you talk about nasty labor conditions. And just, the environment in which it's all done it's a complete abomination to anything natural there, bottom line. And we got to start calling it out. I get sick to my stomach when you see just these people, and we just saw it last week, right? With the was it 2 weeks ago with all the fast food joints offering free hamburgers and 5 cent. That's not coincidental. If something's free, you're usually the product or the target. So we have to roll this back. There's uh, hemp supplemented feed right now for animals for protein. There's a gentleman out of Colorado here. His outfit is called Audacious Beef, and he supplements his beef all grass fed, all open range. He's independent, of course, and he supplements with a hemp. It's a pelletized hemp feed, and he's fetching 20% more at auction for his animals. And one of the biggest things I come up against in traditional markets, ag space, that Nick, there's no market for hemp fed beef or grass fed beef. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It's opposite of that. There's so much of a market demand for it that I mean it's creating a roar, a massive. I've shared the meme with you. The stakes have never been higher, and the amount of people that are eating dirty meat right now is insane. And it can all change with a simple tweak in what we're feeding. And hey, guess what? You can silage up your hemp just like you would corn. It's going to replenish, and clean up your soils. It's going to replenish minerals, and you're going to fetch more at auction. And guess what? Everything downstream is going to get a positive benefit. Um, if we're going to eat meat, let's make sure we're doing it the right way and with the right tools. And that's why they're so afraid of him. It's the money involved, and they've had a hand around our neck with our current supply chains, our food supply chains, and I just told you why. And it's not only the meat. Most of your grain and your flour products, all of that stuff have been sprayed with glyphosate or not cultivated properly, or not cultivated with a seed that was land race that has been here forever and ever and ever, an heirloom, right? We've gotten so far away from that stuff that our food isn't real. It's not a match for our DNA. And as I mentioned, water carries information. Your food does too, and it talks with your
Absolutely.
DNA. So
Yeah, absolutely. I have conversations with people all the time, they think nothing of buying the cheapest meat or the cheapest poultry in the market. And I'm like, you have to understand you're eating with that thing, not only what they ate, but any sort of inhumane process they went through in slaughtering, in being raised, all of that. I mean, those hormones were affected, and you're now consuming that. Of course, it matters. If a cow was force fed grains, you're consuming that. And they weren't meant to eat grains, they were meant to eat grass. So,
exactly
what is,
right.
just that alone, I would imagine, does damage to human DNA. So, you've set up the issues really well, and you've explained how we can kind of get back to what we need to here, which is fantastic. But how are you specifically working on this with different people and agriculturists and cultivators? What are you doing exactly?
Yeah, so awareness has been the big part of it, right? And I think awareness and explaining why and how we got here. The second part of that is grassroots, just out talking with people. Um, if the farmer didn't hear it at 5 o'clock in the morning at the coffee shop off of County Road 96 and 287, then it didn't happen, you know? So putting ourselves out in the community, putting ambassadors for this plant out in the community. And, I think every post that I make or every meeting that I attend at a Farm Service Bureau office or county fair, even, um, it's simply been changing the subject and exposing the illusion. Um, you know, if I was, cut from a different cloth, I'd probably have a massive conglomerate company, not a conglomerate, but a large company doing this. But I don't think that's the future. I think the future is all about enabling the individual once again. And there's a bigger play into this, where again, this is what I foresee myself doing for you know the next several years, anyways, maybe longer. But we have many federal lands that have been depleted, their topsoils, and these are over massive water storage centers. Um, and I say this now, but companies like Walmart and Chinese government used to own a lot of our source water sites, our land that sat atop aquifers. And we have poisoned soils because of chemtrails, and we have poisoned soils because all the glyphosate being sprayed around. That stuff is a mess from cross contamination standpoint. So much to the fact that that's how Monsanto got every farmer onto the GMO corn, because it would cross pollinate with everything else, and then they'd come in and sue you and say, "Hey, even though the farmer knows exactly what happened, it's cross pollinating with heirloom corn." Monsanto was still able to sue them, and that's how they get everybody compliant. Not to mention, they started going after the folks that call them seed cleaners, but they'd save all the heirloom seeds. That was a big no-no, in these corporate companies' eyes, because at the end of the day, it's not the government, it's the corporations that have dominated over sovereign America. And giving people the tools to reverse that trend alone is my mission, and we've had a ton of success with that. Um, I want to talk about specifically. There's and I'm not going to get into some of the strategic stuff that's going on right now, but there is we know all the land in the country that has been touched with a forever chemical, um, glyphosate. What the UN Agenda 2030 was, and this here it is again. You have to expose the agenda illusion in order to field solutions. So we'll do this real quick. Agenda 2030, as it related to agriculture, they know they've been poisoning the crap out of all the resources, the waterways, the rivers, the soils. They know that they're intentionally doing it. We've talked about, growing 12-foot tall corn in chemical soils. So they know that. So when they were planning to come in and take over all the land, was they were going to condemn the land because of that. They were going to come out with a big scare campaign, right? Like they do COVID. They're going to do one with parasites, by the way. Don't be fooled. You already have all the tools you need to cleanse yourself. Do not run out to a third party. Please, please, I will say that right now. I can tell you it's coming. They're going to try to scare people with the parasites because there's been overwhelming information to validate it. And again, these people want to steal souls on their way out. Don't fall for it. There's plenty of people that you can go to online. Amazing blogs are out there. But again, they were planning to do the same thing with the topsoils and condemn most of our farmland in the country, right? So we're getting ahead of that. Um, once something goes into a category as a bioweapon, it gets international attention from a humanitarian support standpoint. And um, we're not, the goal is not to take any freedoms away from the cultivator, but we simply won't allow another season of poisoned fields and crops because knowingly or unknowingly, we are poisoning the downstream, and it's been lethal. It's been incredibly lethal. And that whole agenda has been exposed. So, what's going to happen um, is a lot of this land, again, with these landowners at risk at this point. You're going to lose your land to this agenda unless your soils are clean. Hey, by the way, there's a solution, right? And this will be a massive humanitarian campaign that will take local communities. It will take all the agriculture professionals in the community, the environmentalists that mean well, that aren't on the bar association and that want to create a cyclical cycle of revenue, because we're done with that too. We're also exposing in these areas the same people that have manipulated these programs against the cultivator. They're doing the same thing with water rights, water carriage rights, establishing water courts. You know what I mean? So once this is brought to the public's attention and the accountability phase has been met, that's when the solution will be rolled out. And when I say the solution, it's a concerted effort. It's an education campaign matched with the right tools. And it's a let's get it cleaned up attitude. Let's get it, um, repaired, renewed, restored. That's at the end of the day, right? And so the first couple of seasons, even if you have a stubborn cultivator, that you're not allowed to plant anything in poison soil anymore. Um, you've got to remediate somehow. And the cultivator, I see there's going to be zero risk for the cultivator. They're going to be paid to let somebody come in and remediate their land with industrial hemp. And get this, we're sidestepping any of the THC laws because we are going to use the hemp for industrial purposes only. When I say that, building materials, hemp wood, hempcrete, hemp carpets, hemp clothes, on and on and on and on and on. Anything plastic, hemp fiber can do better. Paper towels, toilet paper, paper. I mean, there was a reason the founders of this country put the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution on hemp paper. I think we're making hemp nooses still, so that's a good thing. Um, but that's the plan. That's the goal. That's what is being applied as we speak, because the agenda 2030 was to come out, condemn your land, and take it from you. No, we're not going to allow that to happen. The resolution is easy, and it's all about making people aware of it. And um, farm by farm, it's happening. Yeah, there will be some event driven things that really let us hit milestones, right? But I can tell you right now, these independent cultivators that are embracing hemp and leading the charge with guns blaring, heroes. I mean, this is legendary status. The stuff that they have gone through, the abuse from even their local friends, family. I mean, you think about a family torn in half because one left the USDA and the GMO side of the house, and I mean, even to their products being completely, while their products are fantastic, they're just being, you got trolls in the comments section on their comments page, and they're talking about the quality of product and so on and so forth. But it's happening. There's nothing they can do about it, and it's all about the role of the illusion has stopped, and everything we talked about today, from the quality of our foods to hemp, even if we didn't even get into any of the benefits of hemp or the 50,000 different ways the cultivator can use it without being taxed or regulated. Um, even if none of that was said, the motivation from the general population is going to be there to make a change because they will all see how detrimental our diets have been. And it's not a political issue. It's not a bipartisan thing. It's a right or wrong, and it's a humanitarian mission that I couldn't be happier to be part of. So that's what's coming, and things that have enabled that are looking back at these international um, declarations, really, and then applying it to, hey, have we violated the Constitution? Have we violated sovereign rights somewhere here with our existing system? Yeah, and it's a lot worse, and it's more obvious than ever. So that's how it's going to unfold, and it's going to be massive. It's not just going to be one, two here or there, but again, by putting those tools back in the hands of the cultivator, it's step one to becoming self-sufficient and sovereign in all ways. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah.
It's the plant's more important than it was ever given any relevance to, and I'm happy to walk in the shoes of the many that have come before me to discuss it and get it a proper venue, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I think we finally got the stage set.
Great. And this is like a labor of love for you too. I mean, you're not really making a living off of doing this at all, right?
I don't make any money. I haven't made a dime on anything I've ever put out. I've not tried to monopolize or corporatize or commoditize when I could have. There's some things that I thought about doing, but I've been focused, bigger mission. And again, my life is even events recently, my life has put me into this position where I can be more patient and do this because it's the only way to do it. Right.
Yeah.
There's, if you come at it from a point of greed and, you come at it from a point of making money, it's the wrong frequency.
Yeah.
I'll talk about energy again. If you're ringing from that, hey, we got to make revenue, or we got to look at a P&L statement. I've talked to all these people that, hey, let's get a business plan together and let's get revenue projections. I spent 17 years of my life doing that, right? And I left that for a reason because it doesn't resonate with me any longer, and it's not going to resonate with Earth any longer. That type of process. So from a humanitarian mission standpoint, you take a tuning fork, it's got that frequency to it, and we're getting feedback that there it is.
Yeah.
Be patient. It's coming.
Good.
It's here. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
here. It's
Yeah.
here. It's here.
Very, very exciting.
And that's why, and I this is validated by the attacks
Yeah.
that I come under. So I don't enjoy them, but know that every attack that I do encounter, I transmute into armor, and I wear that on a daily basis, and
Good
in
for you.
support of this mission. And our army, as far as if you want to call it that, I think it's much more diverse than an army. We're all in on this, and there's nothing that's going to stop us.
Yeah. Very exciting. So, Nick, if there happen to be farmers watching this or listening to this and they want to get in on this, they want to start cultivating hemp, what would you recommend they do to be able to do that?
Um,
How do
so
they get
seed,
started?
yeah, seeds are that's the first thing people ask, seeds, and that's important too because you can expect for the seed market to potentially be sabotaged or yeah, I mean the source of seeds be cordoned off, and we've dealt with that long enough. I've reason to believe a lot of the control of seeds are back in humanity's hands, and but in the meantime, your local farm service bureau offices, there are some good people in those offices, and when the 2018 Farm Bill was signed into law, hemp was legalized federally. And just because somebody at the Farm Service Bureau, just because each FSB office that I've encountered, and I've called through probably 20 different states, they all operate a little bit differently. and they have a different general understanding of what that hemp bill even implied. And part of that's by design too, right? I'll give you an example. Here in Colorado, we've had a recreational marijuana industry for almost 10 years, and the USDA is probably the slowest and the most inept when it comes to hemp. And that just tells me it's because there's no plan to regulate it because they can't. But they're making money hand over fist on, and that what happens is you're don't go to any farm service bureau office that's directly related to a big processing facility or a processing company. And just look around your general area, right? So the more rural, the better. But Kansas, that South Bend industrial, South Bend, Kansas, there's a Farm Service Bureau office locally there, and I can't think of the county name off the top of my head right now, but this is central and western and eastern Kansas. Um, but those Farm Service Bureau offices are tooled up, ready to go. And part of that is the demand from the cultivators. And number two, they've had tribal communities planting hemp, cultivating hemp for years. And that's the same case, I think, in multiple states. So um, do this as an exercise too. Get out there and call through your local community, whether it's the Farm Service Bureau office, um, find a tribal authority and talk with them about their agriculture, specifically hemp, what they're doing. They're not going to look at you cross-eyed, I promise. They won't run you out and laugh at you like I've had people do to, others I've worked with. Um, but establish that network in your community because it's going to be important for everybody. There's not going to be a one stop, there's not going to be that's not the goal of this is to consolidate seeds under one entity. That's not at all. We want to make sure it all gets out there. And the only way that's done is through these networks of trusted cultivators. So we have to start establishing those networks now if we haven't already done so. And you're going to lose some friends in the process. I can promise you that. People that are too hung up into the system that is. Don't worry about it. You got enough support. There will be enough support behind them and around them. But you often won't see it until you step off the deep end. Um, you know what I mean? It's the universe has a funny way of working when you step into a new alignment and then all of a sudden the supporting cast for your mission appears. And it's no different in the agriculture space. And you can just sense it. Every cultivator I meet, no matter what side of the fence they are, tired, tired of the way things have been. And they know change is coming. And what we've been programmed to expect is one leader to stand up and say, hey, I'm your leader now, and this is what we're going to do. We need one of those, two of those, three of those in every county. So you are the next wave of this in the US. If you're listening to this, you are the next wave. Let's go. You've got so much support. There's cases in federal court. There's so much case law that's supporting our stance on all of this that's come out even internationally. So legal woes are a concern for you. Please don't be. That's going to be the first thing that they try to throw at you. But if you look at the data, and this is something I'd be happy to offer to anybody, a free consultation at how to protect themselves from the legality or any type of encroachment. But at the end of the day, you are acting in your own sovereign interest. And what they have denied you of they've denied you of your birthright of being able to access a tool that promotes optimal homeostasis, not only in the human body, but the environment that it surrounds. This is proven. So they're not going to want to play with you in court, I promise.
Right. And another question I had is, so say someone's listening and they'd like to buy like hemp clothing. Are there certain retailers or places that people can go to find hemp products? They're not
Yeah,
necessarily a farmer, but they want to get hemp products.
yeah, no, great question. And I would really just because I've done it myself, I'm kind of transitioning, especially a lot of like my undershirts and undergarments, because those are in direct contact with important stuff, right? Male or female, but there's so much benefit to having hemp clothing back on your body. There really is, and even if you just put in a Google search, type in U.S. made hemp clothing, you're gonna get 2 or 3 pages of results now. Whereas before, all this stuff was locked behind a firewall, and none of these names are out there. So while I don't have a specific or favorite right now, because I've kind of been buying from different places to get a feel, for what the market's putting out. But not just get out there and explore. There's so many people selling this stuff already, which gets me more and more excited because some of these people are growing hemp and they're half acre out back, and they're using the material wisely to do stuff like this. Socks are a big one too. Hemp sheets, hemp comforters, hemp pillows. Oh, I mean, it's all coming. It's all coming. You think about a hemp mattress, and the frequency. And most of us sleep on synthetic mattresses now. You start taking that to the next level with a product like hemp, and as abundant as it's going to be extremely affordable for anybody. It's going to be a good. It's going to be almost a commodity that can be traded. So um, you'll be blown away by just doing some searching at how much hemp clothing, hemp goods are already out there, ready to be purchased. There's a little gouging going on, I would say, but shop for some deals. And as more and more of these storefronts come online, the cost is going to go down significantly. Also, the read into polyester. Don't wear polyester if you can. It's
Yeah, I
not.
was just reading about that. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable. You can say we wear tinfoil hats if you want, but it's clear there's been an agenda that is so anti-humanity in place for so long. I mean, it's not a coincidence. Our water's poisoned, our food's poisoned, our soil's stripped. And then, because of what's in the food, like you said, it rips the minerals from our body. That alone will do it. So, it's exciting though to be kind of, seeing this on the ground level be built up to what, even since the first time you and I talked, it's come a long way, which is so exciting. And can you talk to us a little bit about the global impact that you see right now, real briefly, because I know we're almost out of time.
yeah. Countries like Australia, Italy, France are doing incredible things with hemp. Massive increases in hemp, and I want to talk about this, from a strategic standpoint as well. This is a big reason it was banned. If you look at, I won't get into all the large trees, but the old forest growth, right? We seem to have a lot of that missing, and then we have a lot of old forest growth being targeted with wildfires and stuff like that. But hemp, acre per acre, if you stood it up against our traditional trees that are being harvested over and over and over every 25 years for paper and wood and things like that. Hemp does the same thing, but hemp 1 acre to 1 acre of trees will produce 4 times more oxygen than those trees, and they grow to maturity in 12 weeks, not 25 years. So yeah, logging industry hates us, all of that. But if you look at it for what it is, these are just disastrous industries that do nothing but target Earth itself, and primarily the oxygen we breathe. Their goal, the parasitic goal here, has been to reduce oxygen levels because that's where they thrive. It goes into why alkaline diets. I mean, they're proven. I'll just say it. They're proven to support a system in which disease cannot exist. And it's the same thing they're trying to mimic. So internationally and strategically, if you look at the way our environment flows, our air flows, you will see hemp pop up all over the world, purely from an oxygen boosting campaign standpoint. And yeah, no hemp's going to go to waste, right? But think of the oxygen that can be increased in just one season.
That's an
They are
incredible thought.
they are deathly afraid of that.
Yeah.
And that's why we've been getting so much pushback.
Yeah.
If there's more oxygen in the air, this is how it works. People might roll their eyes at me, but if you are breathing in more oxygen, oxygen isn't just oxygen. You're getting vital minerals, ether from the air. The ether theory is proven. Electroculture became wildly popular this year, which is a big piece that we needed validated. Wildly popular. That validates the ether theory. So when your oxygen levels start to increase, your ether levels, all of that fun stuff starts to increase everywhere. And when we start to really learn how to deep breathe that oxygen in our bodies, we heal ourselves because we're finally giving our body the environment it needed to do what it was designed to do, and that's heal itself. So the oxygen boosting campaign can't be overlooked either. And I'm super excited for that, even though, a financial analyst will go cross-eyed listening to me. How are you going to get funding for that? So, anyways, that's why this isn't a traditional corporate campaign. This is one of the largest humanitarian efforts ever launched, ever conceived.
Yeah. And, what can we do to get behind you and to get behind this movement?
Share the information. Support your cultivators. If you live in a city of cultivators, show up at those board meetings. Show up at not just the town board meetings, show up at the water board meetings. That's where a lot of this resistance is coming from. A lot of farmers are being led to believe they have no water, and that we know that's not the case. Around here, we have so much water under the ground. What they've essentially done is taken the right to drill a well on your own land away completely. And they've done that through over regulating with unconstitutional bar attorneys that created water courts. And they've done that all around the country. And it's a UN Agenda 2030. That's a UN Agenda 2030 program, the water rights. So it's important the cultivators are scared to death of going and being conditioned at these meetings over and over and over again and being everything but threatened in a lot of cases. You know what I mean? If people didn't play ball with this, they were targeted by the usual suspects, your utility companies, your railroads, your oil and gas producers, because they're all that water, right? They just want to dominate control of natural resources and the reason for that is so they can produce an illusion of scarcity on all fronts because they control the flow of information there. So it's important that we share the information, we understand it. We have to understand it. And it might not be for everybody, but I bet people just in their day to day, they're probably related or fairly dependent on the agriculture system, and they know it's poisoned or they know it's been harmed, and they want a tool, they want to know how to fix it. And a lot of people just simply don't know about hemp yet, and that's the biggest strides we've made this year is the awareness. But as I've mentioned again, the awareness turns into practical application solutions quicker and quicker and quicker. And so no, you don't need to go out and buy a tractor. If you want to go out and do it, get some hemp planted. But if you don't have access to any of that, do your research, understand what's going on, and then find a way to support your local market. And guess what? I know every processing facility that has turned on this last year, they're all looking for help. They're all looking to hire. If you're looking to get some experience, go out and do an internship or go out and lend a hand. A farmer would be happy to pay you, to go out and learn this stuff and help, because what's going to happen is you're going to see, just as we've left the homesteads and farmsteads, you're going to see that great migration back out of the large cities out of those control apparatuses and, back to that homestead or farmstead or even rural communities. You're seeing them pop up in areas to where a lot of these homes will have, they're just not affordable right now. That's what I'm saying. Some of this stuff is event based. People can't afford a $2 million 4 acre plot, that's in a master plan community. But I mean, there's some really cool things coming, and people are even getting more and more creative with their own land. You're seeing multiple families within the same family, of course, whether they're direct or extended relatives, start to homestead together. Novel concept, right? No, this isn't new, and this is what I get irritated with: is people are always want to be quick to say, "Oh, I did it," or "I did it," and that's going to do nothing but slow us down with mission. And that's why we've had to proceed the way we have and be careful and not fall for the corporate traps and all of that stuff, because this movement really is bigger than just a plant, and they know that. They've all but validated it for the last 100 years.
I think one of the last questions is, so we talked about clothing, we talked about health, touched on building material.
Yeah.
Uh, how does someone try to get a house or a cottage or anything that has been made with hemp? Or how do they get hempcrete or hemp, what was it, hemp wood, any of these
Yep.
things that you mentioned? How does
It's
someone get that?
it's available now. Probably not as abundant as you would see. There's going to be some waiting lists for it now, but the manufacturers have really stepped into overdrive this year. You can tell, and then even the technology itself of applying old practices, which we know has been done. Look at the Roman Colosseum; that was arguably made with hemp. A lot of these other buildings, right? This is big time stuff. This isn't, some of these amazing facilities and amazing buildings that we've seen throughout history were built with hemp, and they just won't tell you that. But yeah, same thing with the clothing. Get out there and find a general contractor that is geared towards this, towards renewable building, because they'll be more hooked into that to begin with. Find someone if you can, or local. Please try to keep it independent, with independent businesses and all that good stuff. But find a general contractor that is aligned with sustainable building, first and foremost. Hempcrete was approved by the U.S. Residential Code in 2021. So if anyone gives you pushback, there's no need for pushback. They're simply lying. That was another one that was completely missed by the media, and not missed, it was intentionally missed. But we're starting to see that. Holy cow! People are like, "Wow, 2 years it's been approved, and I didn't know about it till now. I could have had a hemp home." Anyways, there's a little leeway time, especially with the resistance that we get. But um, I've seen I've seen products already that, I've seen the hempcrete, insulation, which is pretty amazing. Spray insulation, which is a massive industry right now, especially for people moving back to rural areas because they're building like barn dominiums that need increased insulation because they have, fairly open floor pans. They're out exposed to the elements, and they're typically metal sided. But the spray insulation industry is going to be completely changed with hemp, from its performance standpoint. And hey, guess what? You're getting the benefits of that resonant energy frequency throughout your entire home. Hemp flooring, hemp wood, I've seen already. It's beautiful. Um, what else? I mean, those are probably the most prevalent right now. And then your clothing is starting to get a lot more robust. But yeah, the big markets are hemp wood, the hempcrete, and there's different variations of hempcrete that they're using from the blocks, and people say, oh, architecturally, that's not going to look very nice. Get online. There are some amazing hemp block homes that they've built that look modern, or you can make it look like, I don't know, 2000 years ago, China. I mean, people are building homes that look like that. They're returning the way things were built. And guess what? while they might look a little unorthodox from our little tiny boxes today, those homes were built with natural energetic alignment all around as far as the angles that they're built at, the materials that are built at. So yeah, it's exciting that that stuff is out there. So and you can tell people are just screaming for it. The demands there. I think it'll take a little time to catch up, but if anything, from the hemp fiber people that they're doing nothing but producing hemp for fiber, which is the most basic way to cultivate it. That's where you can take your raw material to these processing facilities and they break the fiber down for you. I don't know what exactly they're paying right now. I saw in Kansas it was like $285 a ton, which a ton of hemp isn't really that much because it's fairly dense material. And they're paying you just like they would at a grain mill.
Wow.
That's incredible because that reinvigorates that entire rural community too. Because what you're going to have from that is different storefronts pop up or different individuals utilizing that hemp to make completely different things. And then,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, we are seeing, and this has been a trend too, I think, to kind of set the stage for this, but we're seeing a lot of more independent mills pop up where you could take a massive quantity of hemp seeds and make a really amazing bread. You know what I mean? Um, we're seeing those pop up in rural communities, and that's I think what I'm most excited for is the reinvigoration of the rural community. That's
Yeah.
that's the America that we were founded upon, and we will return.
Yeah. Very exciting. Nick, always such an education and inspiration to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks. It's you all that inspire me to keep going, and you know, one person can't do it all, and it's really nice to have so many things aligning and turning on. And that just tells me people are not only listening, but they're applying and they're eager to change and they're making it happen. Um, I'm in one of the hardest fought territories as it relates to growing up, right? Colorado, I'm speaking of. Kansas has been significantly easier, but Colorado is just so dominated with cartel activity. And we have a big processing plant, JBS here, but things are finally swinging the other way for a lot of reasons. We've actually talked about it too, but Colorado was a big stronghold for the agendas that really have kind of dominated humanity. So I think it's one of the last cards to fall.
Okay. And pretty soon you're going to have a blog all set up where people can see
Yeah.
all the different resources and
Yep.
your updates on projects and hopefully some little video clips you can show us.
So
That'd be
here's what
great.
I can, yeah, I can definitely, here's what I can promise on that is, yeah, there'll be regular updates, both video blog style and just traditional as well. But it will always be, well, for the most part, it will always be topical as it relates to things unfolding.
Yeah,
The goal is to make sure it's helpful and it's loaded with tools that anybody can apply and utilize. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And,
great.
super excited for that.
All right. Well, thanks again. And we'll look forward to seeing more updates from you on the blog.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.